are listening to a group of farm children singing in Tin Top, Texas, where the people act. The People Act. These are true stories, tape-recorded in communities across the nation where people are working together to build a better future. The People Act is presented by the TV Radio Workshop established by the Ford Foundation and produced by the CBS Radio Network. Every voice and sound is real. No actors are used. Now, here again is your narrator, the noted reporter, Robert Trout. A few months ago, we made plans to tape-record the story of the people of Tin Top, Texas. We wired CBS station KWFT in Wichita Falls, Texas, to find out how to get to Tin Top. The answer came back by telephone. Chief Engineer Herbert Wiley was on the wire.
Hello, Bob. This is Herb Wiley in Wichita Falls. Say, where is this Tin Top place? We'll check the Highway Patrol and the Post Office Department, and they never heard of it.
We had to ask a lot of people before we found anyone who knew where Tin Top was. We finally found it in the Brazos River Valley, 40 miles southwest of Fort Worth. Not even a town, just 50 square miles of Texas grassland. Population, 32 families. What was there to make the story of 32 families worth telling? Only this. Our reporters had told us that those people were trying to do the impossible, to build a community under conditions where anyone would say it couldn't be done. We decided to see for ourselves.
Woo!
Tin Top is in rolling ranch and farm country, cattle country. About all you can see besides cattle roaming around is a general store, 2 churches, and a sign that says, "Welcome to Tin Top." Rancher E. Bickham Cartwright greeted us and answered our first question.
This place is called Tin Top because about 30 years ago, a cotton gin was built here with a galvanized iron roof. A few days after the gin was completed, someone 5 or 6 miles away saw the galvanized iron roof shining in the sunlight and said to a companion, "Tin Top is showing up."
Bickham Cartwright took us into the church, and we met some of the people of Tin Top. Preacher Benjamin Johnson Forbes drove his buggy into Tin Top back in 1896.
My first sermon was in the fall of '96, and I've been preaching here in this community from that day to this, off and on. For a number of years, of course, I went in the buggy. I drove an old horse called Tilden, but when he wore out and I had to turn him out, he was old and could do the work no longer, and I couldn't buy a buggy any longer. That buggy days passed by. I bought me a saddle, a gaited animal, Ollie by name, a paint pony, and she has carried me to my appointments for the last 20 years. I suppose I'm the last of the horse-riding preachers.
We sat down beside 93-year-old country doctor W.M. Campbell, who dropped in after calling on a patient. He spoke about Tin Top when he was a boy. In Tin Top, when the old men talk about the war, they mean the war between the states.
Down near the river to the west was one little log hut which had been occupied by the Berry families. But the Indians had killed and scalped Mr. Berry and wounded his son. We lived in a little log hut all during the war while Father was in service. God alone, how these people lived during those days.
And Mrs. Dan Sisk.
79 years ago, a little over. I was born right across the creek there. Right here. I've been right here. This is my home. Always has been. And our houses was built out of logs, and in between these logs where they didn't come together, we would put sticks to put them together to keep the cold wind out. We made our own doors out of planks and fastened them with a string, for a button. We didn't have no locks like these. We'd kill a fat calf, We'll hang him up in that smokehouse and let the cold wind go through and freeze it.
A hard life in those days, but the settlers planted cotton, and for a while the Tin Top area flourished. But when cotton stopped bringing in profits, the cotton gin was moved away, and life went back almost to what it had been in the 1860s. 10 years ago, Tin Top was almost as primitive as when the Indians roamed the grasslands. Mrs. Todd saw what was left.
There's an old broken-down store and 2 churches and a month. No school there. If we want to go anywhere, we had to go to Weather, a long ways from home. It's pretty tough.
For years, Tin Top was stagnant, a place without a name, and no one seemed to care. But one day 5 years ago, a newcomer, Mrs. E.B. Cartwright, looked at the rundown churches and remembered something.
When I was a child, I saw the church that my grandmother helped because nobody had kept it repaired. I resolved that when I grew up, I would not let that happen.
Mrs. Cartwright's house was being painted, and there was some paint left over. She spoke to her husband about it as they drove to the store.
Vic, let's paint the churches. They're going to rot completely down. Of course, they've stood vacant all these years, but they might be used sometime. Let's paint them and preserve them.
Well, we might try that. I just don't know whether it'll be possible or not to get any interest here, but if we think we can get some people to use it, why, it'd be a nice thing to do, probably.
Shall I find the deacons and trustees of the property and try to get permission?
Well, if you can do that, I don't know who the trustees are. It hadn't been used in so long, it'd be hard to find those who have possession or have the right to tell us to let us fix it, don't you think?
They finally went to Brother Forbes, minister of the Church of Christ.
Mr. Cartwright came to me at my surprise one day and said, Brother Forbes, would you have any objection for us painting the church for you? I've got some painters over my way and painting some property for me, and we can just pay it free of charge. Well, I said, it'd be strange to object to a thing like that. That's mighty kind and generous in you.
The Cartwrights painted the 2 churches, and there was an immediate effect on the people of the Tin Top area. The people began to look around for a way to fix up Tin Top. The only organization they had was the Home Demonstration Club, but it hadn't met in 4 years. Some of the old members assembled at the Baptist church.
Madam Chairman, Ms. Caraway speaking. I have read in the Farmer Stockman of a contest in which I think we would be interested. This contest is open to all neighborhoods. Now, this contest has 15 different phases of improvement on our farms. And the first prize is to be $1,000. Well, that would be a goal for us to work for.
What do you think some of the improvements are that we could make?
We could band together and get electricity in this community. That would help us more than anything.
And we need our telephones. They are getting them in some sections of the state, so why shouldn't we?
And our roads look like we're going through a brush somewhere out in the backwoods.
We can't get through our road if we pass anybody without scratching the side of the car.
They got excited. Their excitement spread. They held more meetings. Finally, a big event for the area.
I think that we should organize here under one name. Let's label everything as Tin Top so people will know us.
I second the motion.
That is a good idea. Tin Top is a good name. As you know, a lot of people know the community because of the Tin Top Gin that once stood across the road. Shall we take a vote now? All in favor of naming this community Tin Top, Texas, say aye. Aye. All right, we'll be known from now on as Tin Top.
They talked about what they were going to do first.
The bad road has cost us several different ways. We raise lots of melons and stuff down here. It would be trucked out if we had a road that largest trucks could travel over.
We've been unable to develop the Brazos Valley because the roads have been inadequate to get the produce out, and the dairies and truck farming would be really good if they could get better roads for it.
Rancher Smothers got up and made a suggestion.
I think the first thing we need to do on these roads is to clean out the brush and the bar ditches, cut the brush around the end of the bridges where we can see across, and get bulldozers. We need bulldozers, but we haven't got them, so we'll just have to do it with our hands and the axes and things.
In Texas, brush is anything up to and including small trees. It was hard work. They finally borrowed a bulldozer to help pull out the big stumps.
Take her away!
Hold out the ground.
They uprooted the brush and pushed it back from the roads. They enjoyed working together. They had common interests and problems. They were beginning to feel like a community. There weren't enough people to make a town, but they decided to build a community center smack in the middle of the Texas grasslands. They went to work at it, men and women.
JT, dig harder, because this has got to go 4 feet deep here. Now remember, this has to be 18 inches wide, and you've got to stay in line with that string. Don't fail to stay with that string. Don't make it crooked.
I believe that string's crooked. I'm getting about ready for some of that fried chicken.
Oh, not dinner yet. Come on, Holly.
Can't have dinner till we get this building up.
That's all the men think about, is eating, though. They can't work for wanting to eat.
With the new center, a place to meet, the people found their community coming back to life. They organized problems to get new information and ideas. Listen in on one of their meetings.
Can we have a report now from the Family Life Committee?
Well, last week we had a book review on the topic of Stop Annoying Your Children by Dr. Bayer, who is one of the associate editors of the Hygiea magazine. And most of the mothers in the community heard that review.
They heard from the Health Committee.
The Health Committee filled its quota for the blood bank, and they cooperated in the chest x-ray.
They worked to get telephones.
They are restaking the telephone line, and we have hopes of getting telephones in the near future.
Does that mean this year or 20 years from now?
Well, they told me that their promises didn't mean too much right now.
They worked on special projects.
Our annual play comes February the 16th. How many have outgrown their parts in that, do you think?
I think J.C. Sears has outgrown his part.
Who do you think we should have for Billy this year?
I think Lonnie Jr. would be all right.
Then if Lonnie Jr. takes Billy's part, who will take Lonnie Jr.'s?
I think we might get one of those Tillery boys to take his part.
You mean Sam?
Yes, ma'am.
They set goals for themselves.
Well, I think our goal this year should be installing bathrooms, because after all, we only have 2 bathrooms in this entire community. That's been a plan I've had in mind ever since the war was over, and maybe if we make that our goal, well, I'll get one.
Their biggest project was to get electricity for their homes. Mr. Carraway was on the committee.
Get the electricity at Tin Top. We made a trip to Azle to talk with Mr. Mills, the head of the REA, and there was a lot of requirements. They had to have so many houses to a mile to get it approved, so he gave it to us, and we got our maps and got it all checked out and got the deposit on the meters, and in a short time, why, we had work started. And then all together, I'll say we made approximately a dozen trips maybe to Azle and Weatherford and different places to get everything to working.
When the first electric power came into Tin Top, the people got pretty excited. It meant a new life for them. Listen to Mrs. N.E. Hodges.
We really didn't know how to feel. We were so happy that we could see at night to read. And we have our radio and our appliances, which make our work much lighter and our homes happier.
We were in Tin Top when the first telephone was put in. We tape recorded the first telephone conversation. J.T. McLaughlin made the call.
128W1. Hey, who is this? Say, you wouldn't want to buy some good cheap cows, would you? Well, I got 10 over here I'd sure like to sell. I'm out of feed. And I take $150 a piece for them. Oh, I don't think that's too high. Do you know who this is? This is your neighbor, J.T. I sure pulled your leg that time, didn't I?
They worked days, planned nights. They threw themselves into the work that had to be done. They saw the improvements they were making, were proud of them. And then their big day came. We were in Tin Top when it happened. We were invited to a special meeting at the community center. There was a covered dish supper. The women came in their town dresses, and the men in their Levi's and Texas boots. Each of the women brought something she'd cooked. The tables sagged with food piled high. Mrs. E.B. Cartwright said grace.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the blessings attended upon this occasion, for Thy bountiful goodness, for neighbors who are neighborly, and for communities who live together in harmony. We would ask Thy blessings on all that we do here this evening. Bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies, and thus to Thy service. Amen.
We piled our plate with cold sliced ham, coleslaw, lettuce and tomatoes, and black-eyed peas. We had iced tea and a slice of J.T. McLaughlin's watermelons that have orange-colored meat. Then we sat back and listened to the program. High school senior Franklin Sears got up to preside over an old tin-top ceremony.
Has anybody had a birthday since the last meeting? Will they please stand? Jim, how old are you?
Do I have to tell that?
Yeah.
I'm 36.
36.
36 is.
Well, he put in a penny for every year he is old. And for the benefit of you folks don't know what this money goes for, it goes to pay the light bills for the building and the churches. Let's sing happy birthday to her. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
The kids did a scene from their annual community play.
George, wouldn't you like to sit on this nice counter and rest?
Oh, shucks, I don't know if I should or not. Somebody may see us.
Nobody will see us. Annie's very busy, aren't you, Annie? Come on, don't be so bashful. I'll tell you a good story.
Oh, all right.
Now, are you ready for the story?
Uh-huh.
Well, an old mama skunk had 2 babies. She named one of them Out, and the other she named In. One day, little In got out and got lost, and Mama sent Out to find In and bring him in. In a little while, Out came leading In, and Mama said, Out, how did you find In so quickly? Now, George, do you know what Out said?
No, what?
Instinct.
Franklin Sears listed the things the community had accomplished during the year.
20 families made major home improvements. Every family practiced deferring grazing, did some weed and brush control work, built 2.5 miles of all-weather road with 80-foot right-of-way almost unassisted by county, had 7 weddings, all a home or church, and not a divorce, vaccinated dogs, put on anti-rat campaign, tested and treated water wells, re-roofed North Church, put in butane system with 2 stoves in North Church and bigger wood stove and new pipe in South Church, put in good sewage disposal system in neighborhood playhouse, had pianos tuned, built drives and parking space, and 400 feet of rock curbing to keep traffic out of children's playground, set out ivy and 8 shrubs, furnished scholarship including room, board, tuition, and fees for a girl to attend college. Her clothes were made almost wholly by Home Demonstration Club.
And then the big event they'd been waiting for. Sam Whitlaw, editor of the Farmer Stockman magazine, got up and made a speech.
Each year, the Farmer Stockman magazine, in cooperation with the Texas A&M College Extension Service, sponsors a rural neighborhood improvement contest in Texas. Now, the purpose of this contest is to develop within the rural communities of the state a better spirit of cooperation and to help in any way we can in developing good neighborliness in the rural communities. This tin-top community has one of the most outstanding records in the entire state of Texas. And on behalf of the Farmer Stockman magazine and the Texas A&M College Extension Service, I want to express thanks to the leaders and to the people in this community who have made this possible. It has really been an outstanding job.
They were presented a check of $400. They'd won second prize in a contest for communities. But what pleased them most was not the prize, but the fact that they were a community and were so considered by the judges of the contest. They had built their community themselves with their own hands. They felt they had a past, and more important, a future. 93-year-old Dr. Campbell got up and made a speech.
90 years ago, the pleasure we were satisfied to travel at 3 to 5 miles an hour. Today we are not satisfied if we are flying at 400 miles an hour. 90 years ago, a $50 debt would make a pioneer walk in his sleep. Today, $10,000 gives us no worry at all. I look at this little community and think how it was unscratched when I was a child. The land was then worth 50 cents an acre. But I'm sure that the old oxen has done gone. Old buck and ball has done gone. And today we are preparing to cultivate our soil with gas and electricity. And its value will double from 50 cents an acre to $500 and perhaps $1,000 per acre, and will take care of 100 times as many people as exist here today.
We were sorry to see the meeting end. Everyone stood up and sang their own song, the Tin Top Song, a song they wrote themselves. This little tin top light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. We said goodbye and walked out to our car. We could still hear the people singing at the community center. We drove back down the lonely country road in the pitch dark, but somehow it didn't seem lonesome anymore, these 50 square miles of Texas where 32 families got together and became a community. We carried back with us something Mrs. N.E. Hodges had said before we left.
We have so much to be thankful for here in Tin Top. We share in our hearts the love and joy of our neighbors, the success and failures, the pain and the sorrow, which welds us together as a community. We're real thankful to have such a wonderful community in which to live.
You have just heard The People Act, narrated by Robert Trout, a documentary series presented by the TV Radio Workshop established by the Ford Foundation and produced by the CBS Radio Network. These programs are under the sponsorship of the National Committee for the People Act. Here is the committee's director, Elmore McKee.
The citizens of Tin Top have shown what free people can do to tackle their local problems. We would like to know your reactions to this story. And if you feel it has a bearing upon a problem in your community and you would like to do something about it, won't you write us at the People Act Center, State College, Pennsylvania? Dr. Milton S. Eisenhower and his associates there will try to put you in touch with someone in your vicinity qualified to consult with you. If you wish a script or a recording for use in your community, please write us at the People Act Center, State College, Pennsylvania.
The People Act is produced by Irving Gitlin, edited by Fred Freed. Tape recordings for today's program were made in Tin Top, Texas by reporter Dave Moore. Join us again next week when the People Act in the Mount Adams area of Washington.